Hello everyone. In Tots at Christchurch this term, we've been learning from the Bible that God is present everywhere, wherever we go and whatever we do. And we've had 3 lots of teaching so far this term that God knows our name, He knows where we live, and He sees us as we grow. And there'll be some more teaching to come this term. And it's all based on Psalm 139, a psalm in the Old Testament written by David. All the teaching that Sarah and Liz are doing comes from that one psalm. And in this little, very short video, I'm just giving my response to the teaching so far. And you might ask the question, this question: can God help me in my impossible situation? You know, we all face hard things, don't we? Difficult things in our lives. I know I do, and I'm sure you do. Things that seem impossible to face, really hard, really trying circumstances we can find ourselves in. And the question can come, okay, but if I cry out to God for help, will He help me? Can He help me? And it's not such a foolish question to ask, really. When you think about just the size of the universe and the size of the world we live in, there are 8,000 million people on our planet. And if just let's say 0.1% of those people are crying out to God, that would be millions of people by my calculation, crying out to Him at the same time. And you think, well, perhaps the switchboard gets jammed. And will God hear little me in Haywards Heath as I call out to Him? Why should God hear me? How can God hear me above the clamour of so many people crying out to Him in this fallen and difficult world? And I suppose there are 2 questions in that one question. The first is, does God know? Does God know about me? Does He know about you? And the second question is, does He even care? Because He might know, but He doesn't care. And I suppose the third question when we're praying to Him, which would flow from those 2 questions, is, does He have the power to help me? Well, Psalm 139 in our Bible reveals a God who is sovereign and powerful and yet personal and loving at the same time. And He knows every detail of our lives. And in fact, the title of the psalm is The All-Knowing, Ever-Present God. I don't know about you, but sometimes I find that the internet seems to know an awful lot about me. It analyses my Google searches and my purchases and the photos that I take. In fact, it analyses all the things that I do on the internet and makes very worryingly accurate purchase suggestions and so on. It knows a lot about me. And I suppose as AI takes more control of our world, that might become a bit more worrying. But at the same time, we live in a kind of what you might call a secular, soaked world. A culture where God is excluded and man's achievements and what man has done is brought to the forefront, as it were. You could say man is king of our culture, and it might be that we might eventually say AI is king. And it seems to me like God has been airbrushed out of our society, out of our culture. A bit like a painter, he doesn't like a particular part of the thing he's painting, so he gets a bit of spray paint and he just sprays out the thing he doesn't want. And, I think that's a bit like our world. People get rid of God because they don't want Him. They airbrush Him out of our culture. He's hardly ever mentioned in all the things that are going on in the world at the moment in our media. But that's a foolish and an insane thing to do, in fact, because you can't really stay sane in a world that's out of control and a world which is just run by men and women, and would eventually be run, people fear, by AI itself. And so from that secular cult type world, we come to the Bible and this psalm, which reveals a God who knows everything, who is sovereign and knows all about us. Let me just read the first 6 verses and then make one very brief comment, then I've finished. Psalm 139, written by King David, 2,000 years before Christ came. Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You are aware of all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, Lord. You have encircled me. You have placed your hand on me. This wondrous knowledge is beyond me. It is lofty. I'm unable to attain it. Do you know that God knows everything about you and is always there whatever you do and wherever you go? When you're taking the kids to school or nursery, when you're sitting watching the TV, watching the football or the tennis or whatever, having your dinner, on the train to London, wherever you go, whatever you do, God sees you and knows you. Nothing escapes his observation. Nothing can escape the all-seeing present eye of God. And this God that the Bible reveals is sovereign and powerful. Of course he can understand millions of people crying to him at the same time, because he's so powerful, he's so amazing. And he's everywhere present. Wherever you are in the world, in fact, wherever you could be in the universe, God's presence would be there. I'm going to finish there, and I'm going to respond a little bit more later in the term when we've had some more teaching. But maybe just ponder on that over this week. The fact that God knows you and cares about you and created you. He's sovereign and powerful and strong, but also personal and real and loving. And you can come to him and bring your smallest needs to you, and he will hear you as you pray through the Lord Jesus Christ. But more of that next time.